Amina's life began in a small, modest home where the warmth of her parents' love made the world feel safe. Her father, a hardworking man, would often remind her, "Daughter, faith and effort can take you anywhere." Her mother's gentle hands guided her toward prayer and kindness, teaching her that life's struggles were never punishments, but stepping stones toward something greater. For years, Amina believed she would always have their love to carry her through any storm. But life can change in ways we never expect. By the time Amina was only 17, tragedy had stolen her family one by one. First, her father passed away after a sudden illness, leaving her mother to carry the weight of the household. Amina's mother worked tirelessly, but her body soon gave in to exhaustion. Within a year, she too was gone, and Amina was left alone with nothing but memories and a deep, aching silence in her heart. Losing her parents, so young, was unbearable. Nights were long and heavy with tears, and mornings felt like endless battles. Her relatives offered little support, and soon Amina realized she was truly on her own. She faced not only grief, but the practical reality of survival: food, rent, education. Everything seemed impossible. Yet within her, a spark remained lit. Every time she felt like giving up, she would recall her father's words. She remembered her mother's prayers whispered softly at dawn, and she told herself, "If Allah has left me here, He must believe I have a purpose." Determined not to let her parents' sacrifices go to waste, Amina focused on her studies. She worked part-time jobs, cleaning houses, babysitting, tutoring younger students, anything that would help her pay her bills and save for college. Often she came home exhausted, her body aching, but she refused to surrender. The world around her doubted her, but inside, she carried a quiet certainty that faith and effort would guide her somewhere better. The years that followed were not easy. There were nights she went to bed hungry, so she could save money for tuition. There were days she felt the sting of loneliness when she saw other families laughing together. And there were moments she cried to Allah, asking why her life had been carved with so much loss. But each time, her heart found comfort in prayer. Her faith was her anchor. Slowly, Amina's efforts began to bear fruit. She earned a scholarship to a university in America, where she pursued business studies. Arriving in a new country alone was terrifying. She wore her hijab with pride, even though she knew it would sometimes bring stares or unkind whispers. But instead of shrinking back, she carried herself with dignity, reminding herself that every challenge was an opportunity to rise. In her classes, Amina excelled, not because life was easier, but because she had already survived storms many could not imagine. She spent late nights in the library, driven by the thought of her mother's tired hands and her father's encouraging smile. She worked in cafes and bookstores to support herself, saving every dollar carefully. Professors noticed her dedication, classmates admired her resilience, and soon she began to believe she wasn't just surviving, she was building something meaningful. After graduating, Amina started her own small business, helping immigrant women learn skills to support themselves financially. She remembered her own struggles and wanted to ensure no other young woman felt as alone and helpless as she once had. What began as a simple idea grew into a thriving organization, and her story of resilience began to inspire countless others. People often asked her, "How did you do it? How did you succeed after losing so much?" Amina's answer was always the same. "I didn't do it alone. I held on to faith. I remembered the lessons my parents left me, and I refused to let loss define me. Instead, I let it strengthen me." She knew success was not about money, recognition, or even building a business. For her, success was about turning pain into purpose, about proving that even the heaviest storms could not erase the light Allah had placed in her heart. Years later, as she stood before a group of young women sharing her journey, Amina felt her parents close once more, not in body, but in spirit. She could almost hear her father's words, could almost feel her mother's prayers surrounding her. She had survived the unthinkable, but more importantly, she had risen with grace. Amina's story became a reminder to many in America and beyond. that grief does not have to be the end of one's story, that faith and perseverance can carve paths where none seem to exist, and that the human spirit, when rooted in purpose, can turn even the deepest wounds into sources of light for others. Her journey spoke to everyone who had ever felt broken, abandoned, or lost. It whispered the truth that even when you lose everything, you still hold the power to rise again. And so, Amina continued, not as the girl who lost her family, but as the woman who turned loss into legacy.